All right, and good morning, everyone. My name is Oliver Blue, and today is the last day of the month of June. And boy, June has been uh, a thriller. You know the old saying about the fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. They call it a thriller from Manila. Well, the month of June for me has been a thriller in the sense that it has been full, power packed, and full of activities and events, happenings in my own personal life. A tremendous amount of happenings in the world at broad, and if you are find yourself here in 2022 in the month of June, you probably had a power pack June also, given summer officially came in. The all the graduations are over, all the children are out of school, vacation, all the different things that come with summer and being alive here in 2022. And so it was a fun month for me. Lots of travel, lots of uh, downtime, lots of recreation, lots of golf. But at the same time, uh, we are still faced with the challenges of life. We're still faced with, the um, decisions that are being made in the world. We're being all impacted by, what's happening to each other. But at the same time, what is constant, what is unaltered, and what is unchanged in all of that is reality, is truth. What's what has not aged, what has not deteriorated, what has not been threatened, what has not been challenged, what has not been attacked, what remains solid as a rock is the truth that is true always. What remains untainted by our fears, by our doubts, by our unbelief, what remains unaffected by our belief in separation, what remains unaffected by those that are making decisions that seemingly changes the landscape of our daily lives. What remains unchanged, untainted, unaltered, unmoved is the reality of the truth that is true always. And within that truth that is true always is the certainty of who we are, the certainty of our identity, the absolute the absolute reality that there is one that is breathing all of us, the absolute reality that we all share this one life, even though it appears that we have these multiple lives, these billions of different expressions of bodies. But what is at the foundation of all of this is that there is but the one life that we all share, that there is a source, again, that breathes all of us, that we all share this same air, we all share uh, this same planet called planet Earth, but that we're all uh, emerge out of this one thought that comes from a divine origin, that has a divine purpose. And within that divine purpose, we find ourselves here and now in this present moment. We find ourselves making decisions. We find ourselves lurking, looking in a state of discovery of what is our best next step. What is in the greater good? What is in our best interest? And so as we become to understand that there is one, there is a source, there is a reality, there is a God, there is this grand plan for humanity that has already been established, that is always available to us. It is through that seeking and finding and knowing that we begin to enter into a rest, enter into a place of calmness and peace and joy that we all desire. And let me pause there and say that, these messages that are being shared on this platform are sponsored by Truly Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that has been established by Yolanda and I, that is wholly devoted and dedicated to the sharing of advanced spirituality for the purpose of helping humanity to turn within and wake up to the reality of their true identity. And in so doing, that we make a decision to show up in the world, not as a false, unknowing, uncertain self, but that we show up daily in certainty, that we show up in confidence, that we show up having a trust and a faith and a hope that there is a greater plan, there is a greater will, there is something to be known, there's something to be experienced, that in the knowing of that in the experience of that, that the world will begin to take on a new hope, a new expression. The world will begin to be a bright light. We will at some point begin to lay down our fears, lay down our armaments, our weapons, lay down our misperceptions. We will begin to see the face of Christ, see the divinity in all humanity, so that the possibility of peace, the possibility of joy and happiness, the possibility of seeing the unlimited resources that are here to support such a place that house 7.8 billion people without a sense of without a sense of scarcity, without a sense of lack. A place that has its foundation in equality, that has its foundation in love, that has its foundation and has its complete trust that the one that is responsible for all of this has already planned our future, has already created a way out of the maze of confusion, the maze of death and destruction and poverty, has already planned for a way out, a way back in onto the main road of life. Because we've, as a species, we long detoured into darkness. We long detoured into a place of separation, a place of division, a place of strife, a place of conflict, which has yielded us what we have seen through the annals of history. But it is our time, it is our day, it is our moment. This 30th day of June in 2022, to make a difference. It's our moment to wake up, to become aware, and to become conscious of what is, what's always been there, what the Course in Miracles called love's present. Love's presence has always been there. Who we really are has always been present. All of the provisions, all of the wisdom that is needed for us to live in harmony has always been present. It has been but covered up by the belief in sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, to where humanity has lost its, not necessarily lost its innocence, but humanity has covered up its innocence and have seen himself in a light, of guilt and judgment and condemnation, and have judged itself wrongly, thus making enemies of itself, making enemies of others. And thus the fight has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. But this is June 30th, 2022, where in this moment we can pause and be quiet and hear the voice that speaks for love, and hear the wisdom that speaks to all of us from within. You've heard me say on here many times that I'm your temporary guide on the side, and that I am your coach by choice. I'm a teacher of God by choice, because I realize that I have a shared interest with all humanity. And the Course says that anyone that sees themselves with a shared interest with all humanity, that's the only qualification that is needed to become a teacher of truth. And so this morning, I just wanted to talk just briefly on the subject of this need for us to feel like we need to defend ourselves, the need to plan our future. This idea of using our past as a guide for our future. All of this happens within our minds. A mind that is fearful, a mind that is operating not on the basis of certainty, but is operating on the basis of uncertainty. I mean, we all have a life. We all live in this world. We all live in a particular country. I just happen to live in the United States, and we all see how, things seem to continue to become more and more divided, to more and more separate, and more uncertain. And that's only because it's an indication that we're still we're defending. We feel like there is a need to defend ourselves. And here in workbook lesson 135 of the course, it says, "Who would defend himself unless he thought he was attacked?" So this need of defense, or to build fences around ourselves or around our community or around an idea or around a certain institution, to build a fence around certain people, to build fences around certain country. That need to do that comes out of this it comes out of this thought. It comes out of a thought that we hold that we're under attack. And there needs to be a fence or a defense to ward off the attack. And that the attack is real. Not that we're just under attack, but that it's real. And that our own defense could actually save us. Now here, this is the basis for which we will build defenses or fences. And what the course is actually saying, and what other spiritual documents say, including the Bible, is that the reason we build these defenses is because of the way we're thinking, or our thoughts are not based on the truth. It's not based upon the fact that there is this universal divine plan for all humanity. We call it the Great Awakening. This plan for all humanity to eventually wake up to the truth of who they are. That who we are in the knowing of ourselves, or the knowing of truth, is the only true answer, or is the only true solution to the problems that we've created. So there's a trust factor here. There's a factor that lacks trust. And so we have trusted in ourselves to make our own way. And we've made a mess out of it in many cases on a collective level and individually. All of our paths are different. But all of us have the freedom of choice. And that choice comes out of our belief. And our belief comes from a mind that believe that it has its own independence, and that it somehow became separate from its source, its creator. So the only thing really in life that needs to be healing is our belief in separation. That we believe that number one, we're separate from our source. And what is our source? And number two, that we're separate from each other. And so everyone has to fend for themselves. Every country has to fend for themselves. Every race has to fend for themselves. Every gender has to fend for themselves. And so there's this multiplicity of being of all these agendas, all these plans that have their origin in the belief that we have separated from our source. We've separated from God. And we don't see ourselves the way we really are. And so the need for what? Defenses, or to build fences. And so we have to protect ourselves from what is highly communicated in these days. And it's a sad story. We put that off on what we call an enemy. And so there's this highly communicated idea that we have to defend ourselves against an enemy, or the enemy, the enemy of God, or the enemy of each other. And that is just part of the illusion to keep us from the truth. It's part of building a fence to keep the truth away from our experience. And so again, it says that who would defend himself unless he thought he was attacked, and that the attack was real, and that his own defense could save himself. Well, humanity has proven that our own defenses cannot save ourselves. They only create the need for more defenses, more armament, larger defense budgets, more technological devices to keep us safe. Stockpiling of guns and ammunition within our own personal lives. We sense, or there's a belief that's a good defense. We separate from one another. We feel like that's a good defense. We break off relationships. We feel like, that's a good defense. We war and fight against other countries. We war and fight politically. We war and fight, even in religious communities of faith. We even teach our children that there's a difference in the world. And because there's a difference, you need to have defenses. We do all kind of crazy things when we're coming from a place of separation, when we come from a mind that believes that it is separate and apart from that one universal mind that we call God. And so when that is the case, when we think that way, then we build these defenses to defend that which is not real. So it's like we double down on, or make it doubly difficult for us to really come to real solutions. Because we think that the attack is real. And all this is happening where? In our minds. And then to even exacerbate things, there's this belief that it is the body, it is our physical corporeum, it's our physical body that needs to be protected. And that really complicates things. That the body needs defense. And in reality, the body needs no defense. Why? Because the body is a wholly neutral thing. And so we cleave tenaciously to this body identification. Just look at 2022 and all of the emphasis that have been placed on the body. Just go to any social media platform, Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or any of the platforms that are out there that allow people to express themselves. Have you noticed how much emphasis it's been put on the body? The glorification of it, or the need for healing of it, or the need for protection of it, the need for attention of it. And all of that body identification is only designed to keep us mindless, to keep us from where the problem really is, which is in the mind. What really needs healing, what really needs focus is our minds. Our minds need to be renewed, need to be transformed. Our minds need to be what? Brought back into alignment with the truth of who we are. It is the mind that has gone prodigal. It is the mind that has believed that it is something that it is not. And so with all the focus on the body, it has left a population that is somewhat mindless. But that's why Truly Foundation was established, because we realized that there needs to be an awakening. There needs to be a season of enlightenment, to where collectively we begin to hear the voice that speaks for God, to hear the voice that speaks for love, to hear the voice that speaks for truth, that directs us within, not without, but direct us into a place where we really begin to notice what we're noticing. Notice how we're thinking. Notice how we've been conditioned. To notice, again, that there is something that if we had the knowledge of, that it would change everything. Jesus said it this way. He said that you shall know the truth. And the truth that you know, notice now, he didn't say the truth shall set you free. He says the truth that you know shall set you free. And that word know is an intimate word. That word, the knowing of something. When you know something, you know, that word, the same word that we used in the book, in the creation story in Genesis, where it says Adam knew Eve. And they birthed something. They birthed a child. That knowing is an intimate word. And so when Jesus said there's a truth to be known, and it is in the knowing of that truth that will birth something, that will reveal something, that will rebirth something, that will bring an awareness and a consciousness that now places the focus where it should be, that now brings an awareness that can cause not only an individual, but cause an entire nation to begin to heal itself. This entire world, is in a place in a need for healing, and not bodily healing, but the mind that thinks itself to be separate, the mind that thinks itself that it is guilty, the mind that thinks itself to be sinful, the mind that thinks itself to be deserving of punishment. That's the healing that humanity needs. And that healing only comes through the knowing of the truth. There is no other way. Again, Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth that you know shall set you free. And this truth that is true always has been echoed all the way through history in many different forms, in many different ways, but we have ignored it in pursuit of our own truth, in pursuit of our own solution, only to see the state that we're in. But what could you not accept? And this is out of again, workbook lesson 135 out of the course. It says, what could you not accept if you but knew that everything that happens, all events, all of the past, all of the present, and all of the future are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? What could you not accept? In other words, if you knew that there is one, there is a source, there's a reality, there's a truth whose purpose is your good, and that all of the past, all of the present, and all of the future, and everything that has happened is under the guise of that one that is working all things together for your good. That's even a biblical scripture that says all things work together for the good to them that are called according to what? According to his purpose. Whose purpose? God's purpose, love's purpose. What is God's purpose? What is love's purpose? It is bringing us to an awareness, to a consciousness of the knowledge of the truth, of who we are, that we are one with that source, that we are not something that is separate from the source itself, but we are the very express image of that love. We're the very express image of that God. We are the very we are the very essence of what God is, of what love is, of what life is, of what reality is. It's not something separate. It's not something to be pursued, but it's the very thing that we are right here on June 30th, 2022. That we are one with God. We are the holy home of God. That we are the innocence. We are the holiness. We are the whole and complete one self that God is. And there is no need for self-defense. There is no need for self-justification. There is no need for significance. There is no need to try to find another self in the world. That's all folly. It all leads to what? It all leads to discouragement. It all leads to unhappiness. It all leads to disappointment. Who you are in this present moment, what you have been created for in this present day, has been planned by the one whose only purpose is your good, whose only purpose is your happiness. So what could we accept? Could we accept everything the way it is? Or do we have to go out and try to change things? Do we have to go out through our own planning, through our own devices, through our own fears? Out of our own fear, out of our own uncertainty, and try to create a future through our own planning, through our own devices, because of our own fears. And in that planning, what is central, what is the main theme is what is the body. This body identification, trying to bring value to our body identification. When we have been given all the identification there is, when we have been appointed, when we have been chosen, when we have been when we have been given all things that pertain to godliness, to life, and to peace. It is essential to our very nature. It is what we are. It is who we are. And it provides the why that we are. And so our life needs no defense. In fact, it says here that it says the body is not, it says the body is in need of no defense. This cannot be too often emphasized. All of the focus on the body. It cannot be too often emphasized that the body needs no defense. It says it will be strong and healthy if the mind, the body will be strong and the body will be healthy if the mind does not abuse it by assigning it to roles it cannot fill. It says the body will be strong and healthy if the mind does not assign it to purposes beyond its scope. It says the body will be strong and healthy if the mind does not assign it if the mind does not exalt aims which it cannot accomplish. And so the mind that is fearful, the mind that believes that it's separate, will work overtime to make the body the main thing. And to give the body purposes, to give the body aims, to give the body assignments that it cannot fulfill. And thus the body breaks down. And the mind also will tell us that the mind and the body are the same, that the mind is contained within the body. And in all of this, we become so bodily minded. We become so earthly minded that we have built this grand fence around us, around that idea, to where the truth cannot get in to heal what really needs to be healed, which is the mind that believe is separate. What needs to be paid attention to is the state of mind, not the state of the body, but the state of the mind. And so it's because of, again, our realization of that we here at Truly Foundation have devoted our entire life to teaching advanced spirituality that gets and focuses on mind training, on the renewing of the mind. Paul said it so beautifully in Hebrews, and I might be quoting the wrong scripture. Hebrews, Romans. He says, be not conformed. Be not conned by this world. Be not conformed to this world way of thinking. Do not be conformed to the illusion. Do not be conformed to the falsity. Be not conformed to the misinformation that this world provides. But he says, be ye transformed. How? By the renewing of the mind. Be ye transformed. Transform means what? Be ye what? Be you moved away from your current way of thinking to a new or a better or the only way of thinking. And that is what? Be moved away from the falsity to the truth. That is true always. Which turns directly to our identity. Who are we? What are we? Why are we? Do we know who we are? Who do you say that you are? That's why Jesus asked Peter the question, who do they say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Jesus knew who he was. He knew he was one with his Father. He knew it was one with God. He knew he was one with reality. He knew he was one with truth. And so Jesus had no need to plan. Jesus had no need to focus on the body. Jesus had no need to seek after body identification. But he understood that his purpose was to show up as the light of the world that he was, show up as the truth of who he is. And he didn't look out into the world for that truth. But he looked within himself and he found God. The Course said that Jesus was a man that saw the face of God, or saw the face of Christ in all humanity. He saw it in everyone and remembered God, or remembered who he was. And so there was no fences. Jesus was free. That truth is what set him free. And in that freedom, his body became a healthy, serviceable instrument through which the mind could operate until its usefulness is over. You never saw in any of the writings of the history of Jesus that, he had a body issue. Never. He didn't deal with that. Why? Because the body is neutral. The body will provide you with healthy, serviceable support once the mind is healed. Once the mind is brought back into its rightful place. Once the mind is transformed and renewed. It said by the renewing, that means that there's a daily there's a daily responsibility. It takes a daily attention to center our thinking, to center our mind around the truth. It has to happen daily. We can't get so caught up in the activities and the events of this world. We can't get so caught up in the culture. We can't get so caught up in all of the distractions, all of the appearances, to where we just focus on body identification, leaving the mind leaving the mind on its own. Without giving it proper attention. Because if you've been living anytime at all, that the mind left into itself. There's no limit to the darkness that it will gravitate towards. And so there has to be an awareness. There has to be a consciousness. That in order to show up in life as one with it, in order to show up in life in love, in order to show up in life in peace and in joy and in certainty, in order to show up in life knowing that there is one who has planned for my only for my good, there has to be a daily reminder. So, hey, I'm here as your daily reminder. That all things are working for the good. That there is a greater good for everyone. There's a plan that's already established. It's called a finished work. We don't have to come up with our own plans. But there is a finished work that is already in motion. This plan that God calls salvation was put in motion at the very moment that the mind wanted to detour into its own doing. And so it's the mind. I'm here to remind you that it's the mind that needs our attention. Because when the mind is healed, we realize that the body will serve us joyously. It says here that it becomes a healthy, serviceable instrument. Just an instrument. It's not who we are. But when you confuse the body as your identity, thus what you see the attack that happens on the body in all different forms of malfunction and sickness and disease. It's coming from a mind that needs to be healed. It's not coming from a body. The body is neutral. It has no mind of its own. It is designed to just to again be a serviceable, healthy instrument. But when you make of it of something else, when you give it purposes it cannot fulfill, when we give it aims that is beyond its scope, when we put that kind of pressure on the body, it breaks down. And that's why you see in our world the multiplicity of malfunction in all the different forms, all the different ways that the body feel like it's under attack. And what's really under attack is the truth. Because the truth, which is able to heal all things, the truth, which is the only thing that can heal a nation, it's the only thing that can heal a community, it's the only thing that can heal an individual. You shall know it, and it shall make you free. The truth that you know. That is a principle. That's a reality that we can't get around, regardless of what we create, regardless of what we drum up as being the problem and the solution. We cannot get around the universal principle, the universal reality that is it's the truth that sets free. It's only the truth that heals. And the body doesn't have a mind of its own to accept truth. No, it's only the mind that believes that it's separate, that needs healing. And this is the body's only real defense, is a healed mind. And we all have access to the mind of Christ. We all have access to the mind of God. But in a world of illusion, we all have access to the ego mind that says that you're separate, you're an individuated self. We're not joined, we're divided. We're not innocent, but we're guilty. That's what the ego mind says. That there's all these differences in race, differences in genders, differences in nationality, differences in politics, differences in religion. All these multiplicity of differences is what is being used to keep the lie going, to keep us hedged in, to keep the truth away. It says here that a healed mind does not plan. See, a healed mind doesn't plan. It carries out the plans that it receives through listening to wisdom that is not its own. It waits until it has been taught what should be done and then proceeds to do it. It does not depend upon itself for anything except its adequacy to fulfill the plans that are already assigned to it. There is a plan. There is a purpose for your life. It's been built within you. It's an essential part of your nature. It is not only a plan, but it is who you are. It is what you are, and it is why you are. And therein lies your happiness. Therein lies your peace. Therein lies a healthy, serviceable body. Therein lies a life of fulfillment, a life of contentment, a life of creativity, a life of gentleness, a life of loveliness. Therein lies a life that understands that we are one. That all humanity, that we're joined as one. That's all in the purpose. And so there's no need to plan. There's only a need to hear but the voice that speaks for God, the voice that speaks for love. And then carry out. It says it right here. It says it does not depend on anything itself except its adequacy, its ability to fulfill the plan assigned to it. It says, it is secure in certainty. This is where our certainty comes from. The certainty that you're looking for, it's in the knowing of the truth. It's in the knowing of yourself. That's where the certainty is. It's not in a certain amount of money or a certain place we live. It's not in living in a certain country or a certain state or a certain county or a certain neighborhood. It's not in your body identification. It's not in the clothes you wear. It's not in the shape of your body. It's not in escaping reality. They're mind-altering, substances. It's not in that. It's not in right relationships. It's not in finding the right girl or the right guy. It's not in having the right insurance policy. It's not in having the right stock portfolio. It's not in having the right IRA plan. It's not in having the right job or the right career. It's not in going to the right church or being a part of the right political party. It's not in none of those things. Your certainty is not in any of those things. Because all those things are in form. And if you ever notice that form is temporary, it comes and it goes. Everything in form is temporary. It comes and it goes. There's no certainty in that. They're all subject to change. They're all subject to be altered. It's one way today, tomorrow it could be different. So if our faith, our hope, our trust is in external things or in form, no wonder we are so heavy laden and burdened and fearful of the future. It's not in the stock market. It's not in you can ask a millionaire or a billionaire. It's not in the hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not in the billions of dollars that they have. Billionaires and millionaires are even more fearful than the one that thinks he doesn't have a lot. They're even more fearful. Ask them. The one thing that they fear, that their billions will fly away or their millions will fly away. And if the million and the billions fly away, the cars and the houses and the boats and the yachts and whatever, all of the fame and the fortune, if that fly away, then I have nothing. That's what they fear, because their identity is wrapped up in those things. If the relationship falls apart, I have nothing. So the trust and the faith and our credence is in sinking sand. When God is offering us everything, when God has already established what and why and where we are. And the good news is, there's good news in this message. We can't change that. None of the activities, the events, the relationships, the sensations, none of our experiences can change the reality that we remain as God created us. As the innocent, sinless, guiltless, shared being that God is. That's the good news. That is the good news. And it says, a healed mind is relieved of the belief that it must plan. A healed mind does not plan. It's when the mind is truly healed, it's relieved of this burden of planning for the future, or trying to manipulate the present moment. There's no need for that. Why? Because there's a master plan. There's one who has planned only for our good. All things are working together for our good. You might say, well, Oliver, it is a hell in a hell basket here in the world right now. Well, those are appearances. Those are temporary appearances. It's not reality. It's not the truth. But when the mind is healed, we're able to look through the falsities of this world. We're able to look through We're able to look through all of the false appearances, all of the signs, all of the conditioning. We're able to look through all of the darkness and see the truth that transforms, to see the truth that is true always, to know who we are, to become the light of the world, that your life will become in that moment the light of the world. How did it come? Because the body got healed? No. It comes through the knowing of the truth. It comes when we accept the reality that I am what my creator, of what the creator created, and it's unaltered, unchanged. I remain as God created me. Now I have opened up my awareness. I have opened up my consciousness to embrace this truth. And in the embracing of the truth, it's what we call the knowing of the truth. And in the knowing of the truth, I'm free to be who I really am. And now I can go about my life in complete freedom, in the knowing of the self, knowing of my innocence, knowing of my holiness, knowing of my guiltlessness, my sinlessness, knowing that I am not body identification. I'm not a race. I'm not a gender. I'm not a nationality. I'm not the history. I'm not my past. I'm not my ancestors. There is but one ancestor. And he's not and it's not an ancestor. There's only one reality. God is our only reality. And God is not past nor future. God is only present. Love is not past. Love is not future. Love is only present. And so in this aware presence, there is a certainty. There is a joy. There's a peace. There's a happiness. And there's a freedom to choose to be the light of the world that I am in everything that I do, in every place that I go, in every person that I meet. Having no plan other than knowing that there's one who has planned for my good only. And that is certainty. That is a fact. It is a matter of fact. And when we come to rest our case, when we come to exhale from chasing after the illusion of a separated self, after the illusion of a separated creator in his creation, to know that only the oneness, to know that only oneness, to know that only the one thing, the one love, the one life, the one being that we all share is the truth that sets me free. I'm going to finish this. So it's a trust factor. When we learn and when we accept, when we embrace the truth of who we are and really know what it means that in God we trust. When it goes beyond just being what? A mantra. But when it becomes your reality, in the oneness we trust, not God is something separate from you or something separate or different from you, but when you trust that you and God are one, then and only then will the certainty that we desire, we will experience. The freedom that we desire, we will experience. And so our trust promises. There's a promise. Scripture say that we are the promised seed, and we are. It's just metaphoric or symbolic for the fact that we can't undo what the Creator has done. We can't. We can live 10,000 more years and we're not going to be able to undo what God has done. Only the purposes of God shall prevail. Only God's purpose shall prevail. There's a scripture in Proverbs that says, many are the plans in a man's heart. Many. And we've all had them. We've all tried to execute them only to what? Only to be disappointed. It said, many are the plans, but it is only the purposes of God that shall prevail. So that means in reality, in eternity, only that which is true remained. So what we are experiencing here in this time-dimensional space, form, is not real. It's a dream of being other. And we can't be other. We have to be dreaming, because in reality, nothing has changed. And so as Paul said that we are the promised seed. We are the promise that God made. God made an oath. He made a promise, and he swore by himself, when he could swear by no greater. That we are the blessed, all humanity, not just some special group. All his creation is blessed. And when we wake up to that reality, it will become a lived experience. When you wake up to that reality in your own life, it becomes a real experience. God has promised that all humanity will eventually wake up to the truth of who we are. How many lifetimes are you going to have to live? Are we going to have to live to come to that conclusion? How many of it takes? Because it will eventually happen. So our trust, our faith in this reality, it gives us promises. And I'm going to end on these promises. When we walk in this light that we just shared, when we walk in this reality I just shared, we are guaranteed a future that is undisturbed. Wouldn't you like to have a future that is undisturbed? One that you don't have to plan for, wondering whether there's going to be enough, wondering whether or not you're going to sustain this body, whether or not you're going to sustain a relationship, whether or not the world's going to be destroyed through war and fighting and proliferation of self-destruction. He says, when we embrace the truth that sets us free, it says we have a promise of a future that is undisturbed. You have a promise of a life that's undisturbed. You can live an undisturbed life right now, given with all the masses, things that are happening that seem to disturb humanity. You can live undisturbed. Jesus proved it. He showed us. He was never disturbed by anything because he walked in the peace of God, that peace that passes all understanding. You can have that too. It doesn't come through religion. It doesn't come through politics. It doesn't come through the acquiring of things. It comes through the knowing of the self. The only way. It comes through the knowledge of the truth. And it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to sacrifice anything. Contrary to what we're told, you don't have to sacrifice one thing. In God, there is no sacrifice. God doesn't believe in sacrifice. Sacrifice comes from the idea of somebody got to win, somebody's got to lose. God doesn't require blood. He doesn't require body. God is bodiless and timeless. And so are you. God doesn't require anything. God needs no defense. He's not taken away by our folly, by our belief in separation. It's only a dream. And you know what happens when you wake up from a dream? When you wake up from a dream, what happens? You realize the dream wasn't true. So you don't have to die to wake up from the dream of separation. In other words, the body doesn't have to expire. So that's not real death. There is no death. There's no such thing as death in God. That's a man-made idea, a man-made concept. That's a fear-based concept that we have created and we're afraid of. It's a defense that we have built. So you can have a future that's undisturbed. And it comes through the knowing of yourself. It comes through the knowing of the truth that sets us free. It says, no trace of sorrow. You can live a life sorrow-free when you know the truth that sets you free. There's nothing to be sorry for. There's no need to anguish or resent or to hold agreements towards anyone. There's no need to feel this that you have to be the the judge, the jury, and the executioner. You don't have to punish anyone. There's one. There's one that is planning, that has planned. There's one that only planned for your good. And so what? You can live a life with no trace of sorrow. It is possible. You might be saying, Oliver, now look, you really talking out of your head. And I am. I have transcended my natural inclinations. And there's many that has transcended this world. I'm not of it. I'm in it, but I'm not of it. And I'm the happiest thing in it. Just from my point of view, I'm very happy. And I hope you are. If you'll listen to me, I'm pointing you to the happiness where God placed it. And it's within you. It's not out there. And thirdly, you can live constantly in increasing joy. You can live in constant increasing joy. Joy, knowing that only the purposes of God shall prevail. When you know that, it sets you free to be wholly joyous, to do everything in joy. Notice, no, I didn't say to enjoy everything, because we try to enjoy everything. It's a difference to enjoy everything than to live in joy. You live in joy through the knowing of the truth. You try to enjoy things. To find happiness. But no, we're talking about you can live in the constant increasing joy. The Bible says it's joy that is unspeakable and full of glory, and it comes through the knowing of the truth. It's full of glory. It's full of certainty. It's full of this absolute knowing that you're already the aware presence. You're already one. You're already whole and complete and innocent and sinless and guiltless right now in this very moment. That is what calls you to be in joy. It has nothing to do with the body. It has nothing to do with situations, circumstances, or conditions. Nothing has to change for you to be in joy. Fourthly, life becomes a holy instant. What do you mean, Blue? Life becomes a moment by moment by moment experience of the truth of who we are, the truth of our oneness with each other and with our Creator. And the experience of that truth is what we call love. So true love is experiencing yourself, your divine self, your infinite self, your undisturbed self, your sorrowless self. Love is experiencing your constant, increasing, joyous self. It's called a holy instant, meaning that in every instant of your life, there is a wholeness, there is a completeness. That is your present state. It's called what? the aware presence. The Course says that what? Its aim is what? to remove all the blocks to the awareness of what? Of love's presence. That love is always present, and you are it. And you can experience it. You can have the direct experience of it. I'm not talking about some ooey gooey religious mental assent that, there's a God and, there's a heaven somewhere and all of that. I have to do these things. No. I'm talking about you shall know the truth. And the truth that you know will make you free. The truth that you know will bring about an experience of freedom and liberality that you have to pinch yourself. You have to pinch your undisturbed, unsorrowful, your joyful self in every instant. In the midst of all that's happening. This is what we're called to. All humanity, no exception. And you might say, Oliver, that sounds like a pie in the sky. Well, see, that's your ego talking. Still trying to keep defense. Still trying to keep the knowledge of the truth from being your what? From being your reality. And finally, knowing of the truth promises, when we trust in the reality of our true identity, when we place our trust in the living creator that is one with us, not something separate from us. It's not pie in the sky, it's not God in the sky, not the big man upstairs. It's not Christ in me, not we're talking about the reality that there is no separation, that you and God are one. When that is embraced, when that is accepted, it says that the promise that comes from that is a life heeding, a life that only takes heed to immortality. What is immortality? What is immortality? A life that will only give credence to immortality. Immortality is that which has no beginning and no ending. Immortality is that which remains as it always has been. Immortality is that which is eternal, that which is changeless, that which is unalterable, that which only God creates. God is our only reality. That which is formless, that which is timeless, that which is birthless, that which is deathless. That's what immortality is. And so we're not what? Mortal beings. Because we're not a body. But we are the immortal, impregnable creation, extension of the one that is. That is who we are. There's no greater. Jesus said it this way. He said, where I am, there you are also. As I am, so are we in this world. That's what he said. Now, this holy instant. It's not something to look forward to in the future. In God, there is no past and there is no future. There's only the present. In his presence, in the presence, aware presence, in aware presence, there's fullness of joy and treasures forevermore, as it said by the psalmist. That's what he means. It's not just a cliche, it's a reality. So there is a greater plan established for the greater good for everyone. There's no exceptions. Why? Because there's only the one. Do you see that there's only one of us? The day you embrace the reality that there's only one of us is the day that you will lay down your weapons. It will be the day that you would put away the children toys of unforgiveness and resentments and grievances. It will be the day that you will walk away from your prejudices. Like Martin said, that he's been to the mountaintop. That's what he's talking about. He's seen it. We're all God's creation. Regardless of their body identification. We live together in harmony. We become what? The light of the world. In experience, in expression. We are that. And so, to conclude, if you defend yourself, that only is an indication that there's still the residual effect of the belief in separation. There's still the residual effect that you think that you separated from God. There's still the residual effect of the world leveraging its guilt upon you as calling you a sinner, or saying that you're guilty and that you deserve punishment. All of that is what causes us to go into self-defense. Well, today you can let your fences down. You can take up your bed and walk. Why? Because none of it's true. What is true is what we just shared. We call it advanced spirituality. It's not fear-based theology. That is part of the problem. But it's the truth that transforms. It is the truth that is true always. And so, allow our present trust in this truth to direct your future. Allow your trust in God, your trust in love, your trust in reality, your trust in aware presence to guide your future. That's enough. Okay, this message came just straight out of my own inspiration this morning. Wasn't planned, but just felt a need to say it, to share it. Hopefully, and I know it's helpful. I know some things I say sometimes are very lofty ideas. You might say, well, these are lofty ideas, Oliver. We can never attain to that. Well, that's the ego talking. That's the ego trying to keep us still imprisoned, trying to keep us to defend against the truth, to keep God to keep love keep reality out of our experience. But I am here to invite everyone to know their self, to know reality, to know the truth that sets free. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great last day of June. And hey, by the way, tonight at 7 p.m., join Yolanda and I for a all brand new episode of Truly Live. And that is our weekly talk show where we actively share in these digital communities transformational principles that can help you get results that are based on the truth, that can help you come to know the self. And we're on each Thursday night at 7 p.m. exclusively streaming live on our YouTube channel, Truly OB. Truly OB is our YouTube channel. So join us tonight at 7. We're going to have an interesting conversation that you will enjoy. We'll do it in joy so that you can enjoy. Have a great day. Bye-bye.